So Pilate first says, I don't find any substance to the charge against him. How about I release him to you, which is the custom of Passover? And they go, we're not having it. We came here to have you kill this guy. We are not having you do us out of that. So Pilate now tries a desperate measure. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him scourged. The Greek here, there were 3 levels of punishment. There was beating, which is just a punishment. You could be beaten with rods or with a whip. That was just to punish you for being a bad person, breaking the law. Flogging was pretty serious. Scourging was part, actually, of a death sentence. And it weakened people badly. He had Jesus scourged, which is really dreadful. But probably he's still trying to find a way to let Jesus go, short of death. Scourging was done with a leather whip that had lead balls in it and sharp pieces of bone. And it literally tore the flesh off your back. And usually was laid on in enough stripes that it exposed your muscles and sometimes your bones. And people literally died from scourging. Part of the deal with crucifixion damages no vital organs of the body. It just hurts like thunder. And it was designed to hurt more than anybody could imagine. The tendons and so on are punctured. But you know, they beat people within an inch of their life, as we say, and then crucified them. And it couldn't possibly have been out of mercy, but you can't leave people there forever.
Isaiah 53 said that he was not even recognizable as a man. That's how severely he was beaten.
Yep. So anyway, I mean, he was terribly beaten. Yeah, Carol?
I have a question in verse 38 where he says to them, this is my Bible, do you want me to release, quote, the King of the Jews?
Yes.
Well, wouldn't that have inflamed them if he would have used that as opposed to saying, do you want me to release this prophet or do you want me to release Jesus?
Or release this innocent man? Yeah.
But he said King of the Jews.
And it's not entirely easy to know what he means by this. I mean, whether he intends to insult them, but he does. I think all the Gospels indicate that Pilate tried to release Jesus instead of Barabbas. There's no question that I don't believe there's any question about that. And you're right. It's an interesting phrase that's subject to a variety of interpretations. Anyway, then we come into the awful description. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they struck him in the face. Turns out that this is a soldier's game that they have played with other people. There are even markings in the floor of one of the stone pavements where the game was repeated, showing where the various players were. So they did this to a variety of political prisoners, and this was what they did as part of their torment of people, and they did that to the Lord Jesus. Once more, Pilate came out and said to the Jews, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis of a charge against him." He inflicts this unimaginable punishment on Jesus and then brings him out again to say, "I find no charge against this man." And I think John's implication here is that he has Jesus scourged and humiliated this way, sort of as a way of saying, there you have it now. Perhaps now you have your pound of flesh. You see, I've rendered him sort of a helpless mass of bleeding flesh. And, what do you say? I think that's the implication here. If you don't see it that way, that's really okay. When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." Some of you know the Latin etche homo for this. The Greek is idou ho anthropos. Here is the man. John probably records this as a way of putting some irony into it. In the mouth of Pilate is the man, which is an eschatological phrase, sort of a promise of God's promised man is here, and the man, and all of that. But Pilate brings him out and says, "Behold the man." As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they cried, "Crucify, crucify." Pilate says, "You take him and crucify him." He knows they can't do this. This is disgust, almost for certain. This is, putting it back at them. And this is Pilate still probably looking for a way. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him. Pilate is very clear. I find no basis for a charge. Beat him to an inch of his life, but I find no basis for a charge against him. But the Jewish leaders insisted, we have a law, and according to that law, he must die because he claimed to be the Son of God. Now we're down to the heart. When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, probably because he was superstitious and maybe because he had some eerie sense about Jesus. And he went back inside to the palace and he asked the question of origin. "Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. But Jesus gave him no answer. Isaiah 53 again, "I was silent before my persecutors." Pilate asked, "Where did you come from?" maybe hoping that he would find out that he was a Galilean and was Herod's trouble. And therefore Pilate wouldn't have to decide. But also is the question of where do you come from? He claimed to be the Son of God. Well, geez, the Romans believed in lots of gods and goddesses. Maybe he was, in some real sense, the Son of God. Caesar was a god. And, so he worries about it a little bit. It's a question of origins, and we know Jesus' origins. Pilate is in terrible danger. "Do you refuse to speak to me? Don't you realize I have power to either free you or to crucify you?" What a bold claim. It's not true. The guy's a chicken.